Right, so today I'm going to start up the bikes. I've just put in, well, I'm going to start some of them, I might do the others another day. I've put fuel additive in, fuel stabiliser, so that things are okay over the winter, to try and stop the carburetors from going up, because especially with this new additive petrol, ethanol petrol, the carbs can come up. They'll come up anyway. You leave petrol standing, it goes stale, and it tends to block the pilot jets, and they won't self unblock. You know, running it won't clear. So the only thing you have to do is take all the carbs off and clean them out, which is a pain. So I put in fuel stabiliser every year. I think I use Lucas fuel stabiliser. It seems to work. You just an additive, you put it in, it supposedly stops the petrol from going off and also from gumming up your carbs, and it does seem to work. But it is a pain if you don't, you know, if your carbs do come up, because like I say, it tends to be the pilot circuit and the carbs, and by running it in, you know, next year or whatever, it won't clear it. You've got to take the carbs off, and it's a real pain. So I'm going to start with the T160. So starting from complete cold, in my case is key in, ignition on, check them on neutral. Then I've got choke lever down on the carbs. This is the basement down here, so I always need choke, because it's you know, even in summer it's cold down here. So some people take their choke levers and that off, because they can be a pain, because the chokes can come on accidentally during riding, but I always leave mine on because it does like choke. Then petrol on, and then I'm going to tickle all three carbs. One, then we've got a lever that does the middle carb, and then the left hand carb. Right, so this is from absolute cold, electric start. I haven't run it for a couple of weeks. Basically, for some reason, the longer you leave it, the longer you leave your bikes, the harder they are to start. I don't like being left. I'm not sure why, but like if you only run it the day before, it'll start. If you haven't run it all over winter, it'll take like 10 minutes to start. But let's see how we go. Pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the petrol off. I'm swiveling the tank around a bit and get some of that ethanol mixed in. Get some of that fuel stabiliser mixed in. And I'm going to run the bike now if I can, because it's in the garage down here. It makes a lot of noise. And the fumes are bad because, and of course, if I'm in a basement, all the fumes go up through the house. And someone in the house isn't that happy about that. But I can't run the bike outside and then push it in, because it's on a steep slope. And if I start the bike outside, run it until it runs out of fuel, bring it, you know, I can't push it back in. So I'll run it for a bit anyway. So what I'm going to try and do is empty all the fuel out of the carbs, because I know that fuel hasn't got any stabiliser in it. So turn those off, yeah, turn it back on. Starting it up, we'll see what it sounds like, but I do know for some reason YouTube have some kind of suppression system on the sound. So it's really loud, the Norton is really loud, but you'll never get the full sound of the bike. You know, the sound you're hearing is like half the volume of what the bikes really are. No, I don't think there's a way around that. That's just the way that YouTube works. There's some kind of suppression on the sound. Anyway, here we go again. that's it. So I've run it now so that all the fuel is out of the carbs. All the fuel without stabiliser. So I'm getting ready to put the bikes away for the winter. So all I'm going to do, all I've done is I put ethanol in there, run the bike so the carbs are empty, and I'm going to overinflate the tyres, because in the garage I have all the bikes on the side stand so they're sitting on the tyres, and that can create a flat spot. So I overinflate the tyres massively, ethanol, and that's it. Now, some people say, well, it's a bit early, isn't it? What, you know, to put your bike away for winter? Well, that's all I do. Fuel in, overinflate the tyres. So if I do want to go out, you know, if it's a beautiful day, hopefully there'll be some more riding days. Well, that's fine, because it will run fine with the stabiliser in it. I just take the pressure back out of the tyres, and then when I get back in, I'll just put a bit more stabiliser in and we're sorted. Okay. But bike sounding good, I'm pleased. It sounds really nice. Sounds really nice. But let's have a look. How long have I done? I've done 377 miles since the last service on this. I use the trip on all my bikes. I use them service to service, so I know, because it's easy to forget, or you know, you try and keep a log, you forget to write it down. So I use a trip meter, so I know whatever the trip is on all the bikes is how long they've been since, how many miles I've done since I've serviced them. So this one's 377. Often I might service them anyway every year, put new oil in, whatever. But sometimes I just don't get around to it, especially if there's anyone, you know, this is done under 400 miles. The Commando's done 432. The T160's done 325, and the Z has done 336. But they do need looking at anyway over the winter. But anyway, that's it. That's my put the bike away for winter routine. Fuel stabiliser, run the engine till the carbs are empty, overinflate the tyres, sorted. And it's in a dry garage. I don't need anti-rust stuff. I'll keep them covered. I don't put heat on, condensation, all that. There's no need for heat down here. It stays exactly the same temperature all year round down here. It is a cave. It is a man cave down here. It's a cave that stays the same temperature. And I'll do the same now with the other bikes. What I'll probably do is I might do the Norton now. It's alright. I'm busy doing other things, so I might do the other bikes, you know, bit by bit. Okay, let's have a go. Same thing with the Norton. I've put fuel stabiliser in. Give it a bit of a swizzle. Fuel on. Choke on full again because we're down in the basement. Tickle the carbs because it's cold. The Norton starts really well from warm without tickling, but from cold, obviously you need to tickle it. Tickle both carbs, ignition on. Check we're in neutral because again we've got a lovely neutral warning light, just like the Trident. Yep, okay, let's give it a blast. that's loud. That's great. I think it was spitting back there as it, because it was lean, as it began to run out of fuel. When I turned the choke off too early, spat back, lean, and as it began to run out of fuel again, it was spitting back. That's nice. It goes so well, the Commando, it goes really well. I'll just mention that, of course, I don't have to worry about wet sumping on any of my bikes because I do fit an anti-wet sumping valve. Controversial, I know, but I have them in all the bikes, and so they don't wet sump. Well, I don't have them in the Kawasaki because that's already a wet sump engine. In other words, the oil sits in the engine the whole time. There is no oil tank. These three bikes all separate oil tanks, and over winter the oil can drain from the tanks into the sump, and so then the sump's full of oil. I don't have that problem because I have these wet sump valves. Now people don't fit them because they say, oh well, what the valve jams or whatever, then you haven't got any oil pressure and it's going to wreck them. Well, to be honest, I think it's more dangerous the bike wet sumping, which is a regular occurrence. Also, I've got an oil pressure gauge on this one, and I've got upgraded oil warning lights on both the Tridents, so I'm okay if there ever was a problem. I think there's more of a problem with the wet sumping, especially the main problem with wet sumping, apart from all oil being in the crankcases and messing things up, is that if all the oil drains from the tank, which over winter can easily happen, then when you start it in the spring, there's no oil to feed the actual big ends. All the oil is in the sump. So when it tries to suck oil to feed all the crankshaft and the big ends, the main bearings and so on, there is no oil. So there's actually no oil pressure because ironically all the oil is in the sump, splashing around but not under pressure. And it's only when eventually oil returns back to the tank and then feeds through and then gets through that you actually get any pressure. And I know people that do start their bikes and the wet sump, it's only wet sump, it's okay, I'll start it. Well, you're starting a bike and you're running it, for 30 seconds? Probably way longer, maybe up to 2 minutes without any oil pressure. So, I've never had a problem. I'm not recommending them, I never recommend an anti-wet sump valve. All I ever say is I fit them and I've never had any trouble with them whatsoever. So it's entirely up to you. But as far as I'm concerned, they're great. Right, put some air in these tyres and they're ready to sit if they need to over winter, and I'm going to start up the Trident and the Quacker next.